My fiancé disappeared 14 days before our wedding. Not on the wedding day, or after an argument, or after some dramatic fight where we both said things we regretted. 14 days before, close enough that invitations had already been mailed. My dress was hanging in my apartment. Close enough that his grandmother kept calling to ask whether we preferred white roses or ivory roses. Then one morning he simply vanished. No goodbye. No note. No explanation. Nothing. At least that's what everyone told me. The last time I saw Kang Do-Yun was on a Thursday night. We were sitting on the floor of our new apartment surrounded by unopened boxes. Neither of us had moved in yet. We were supposed to do that after the wedding. The place smelled like fresh paint and cardboard. He was assembling a bookshelf. I was reading the instructions. We argued for 20 minutes about which one of us was the problem. The answer was him, obviously. He claimed the instructions were confusing. I pointed out they were mostly pictures. He accused me of lacking emotional support. I accused him of attacking literature. Somehow that argument ended with us ordering fried chicken. That's what I remember most. Not some grand romantic moment. Not a movie scene. Just fried chicken and a half-built bookshelf leaning against the wall like it had given up on life. Around midnight, he walked me to my car. He kissed my forehead. Told me he'd call in the morning. Then he stood there smiling while I drove away. That was the last time I saw him. The next day his phone went straight to voicemail. At first I wasn't worried. Do-Yun occasionally disappeared into work. His company handled international logistics. Sometimes he'd get dragged into emergencies. Ships delayed. Contracts collapsing. Executives panicking. Rich people problems. I figured he'd call eventually. By evening I was annoyed. By the second day I was worried. By the third day I was standing outside his office demanding answers. The receptionist looked nervous the second she saw me. That should have been my first clue. I asked where he was. She said she didn't know. I asked who did know. She said nobody. Then she refused to look me in the eye. That's when something started feeling wrong. Because people who genuinely don't know something usually say it quickly. People who are hiding something take longer. She took a very long time. Then things became stranger. His apartment was empty. His office was empty. His assistant had suddenly resigned. And every person connected to him seemed to be reading from the same script. We haven't heard from him. We don't know where he went. We're just as surprised as you are. The exact same answers. Over and over. It felt rehearsed. Like everyone had attended the same meeting. The wedding was officially canceled 6 days later. I didn't cancel it. His family did. His mother handled the phone calls. His father handled the refunds. His grandmother stopped speaking entirely. The silence hurt more than the disappearance. Because nobody acted angry, shocked, or even confused as I was. They acted defeated. Like this was something they'd expected all along. I spent the next 3 years trying to convince myself I'd been abandoned. Honestly, it would have been easier if I'd hated him. Hatred is simple. Hatred gives you somewhere to put the pain. But every memory fought against it. Every single one. Because Do-Yun wasn't careless. He wasn't cruel. He wasn't the type to vanish without a word. And no matter how many times I tried telling myself otherwise, I never quite believed he left voluntarily. Then 3 years later, I found something hidden inside the apartment we never moved into. And suddenly everything I thought I knew about his disappearance started falling apart. 3 years later, I wasn't looking for answers. That's the important part. People always imagine that grief stays dramatic forever. It doesn't. Eventually it becomes routine. You wake up, go to work, pay bills, answer emails, and every once in a while something reminds you of the life you almost had. Then you keep moving. That's where I was. Moving. Or at least pretending to. The apartment we bought together had sat untouched for years. Technically it belonged to both of us. Legally, it became complicated after he disappeared. Emotionally, it became radioactive. Neither of us had ever lived there. Neither of us had ever unpacked those boxes. And for 3 years I avoided it completely. Then a pipe burst. Not exactly a dramatic reason to revisit the ruins of your former life. But life rarely schedules emotional breakdowns conveniently. So on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, I found myself standing inside the apartment for the first time in years. Everything looked smaller. The living room. The kitchen. The hallway. Even the half-finished bookshelf. Still there. Still leaning slightly to the left. Still losing its battle against gravity. I actually laughed. Then immediately hated myself for it. The maintenance workers fixed the pipe in less than an hour. After they left, I should have gone home. Instead, I stayed. Maybe because it was raining. Maybe because I was tired. Maybe because some part of me wasn't ready to leave yet. I wandered from room to room, touching things, remembering things. The kind of torture people volunteer for when they're lonely. Then I noticed something strange, the bookshelf. For 3 years I'd remembered it leaning against the wall unfinished. But now one side looked slightly different. Not broken, just different. Like someone had altered it. I walked closer, knelt down and saw a loose panel near the bottom. My first thought was that Do-Yun had assembled it incorrectly, which would have been completely in character. Then I pulled the panel and discovered a hidden compartment. I just stared. Inside was a sealed envelope. Nothing written on the front. No name. No date. My hand started shaking before I'd even opened it. Because deep down, I already knew. Whatever was inside that envelope had been waiting 3 years for someone to find it. I opened it carefully. Inside was a photograph. Then another. Then another. My stomach dropped immediately. Because every photograph showed the same thing. Do-Yun. Meeting people. Different locations. Parking garages. Restaurants. Office buildings. But that wasn't the strange part. The strange part was who he was meeting. I recognized one of them instantly. His uncle. The same uncle nobody talked about. The one who somehow attended every family event without ever speaking. The one who always seemed to appear whenever conversations became uncomfortable. Then I found a flash drive. A small black flash drive taped inside the envelope. And beneath it was a handwritten note. Just 7 words. If you're reading this, I ran out of time. I was speechless. For a second my brain refused to process what I just read. Because that wasn't a goodbye. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't a love letter. It was a warning. I read it over and over. And somehow it became worse every time. If you're reading this, I ran out of time. Not. If you're reading this, I left. Not. If you're reading this, forgive me. Not. If you're reading this, move on. Then I noticed something else. The note continued on the back. Do not tell my family you found this. I read that line 5 times, maybe 6. Because there are very few things more unsettling than being told not to trust the people you've trusted for years. Especially after those same people spent 3 years helping you grieve. His mother had comforted me. His grandmother had cried with me. His father had handled the legal nightmare that followed his disappearance. So why would Do-Yun tell me to hide this from them? I looked back inside the envelope. There was one final item. A small silver key. It was ordinary looking. The kind of key you wouldn't notice unless someone told you it mattered. A small sticker was attached to it. Box 417. That was it. No address. No explanation. Nothing. I sat there on the floor for nearly 20 minutes staring at a key and a flash drive, trying to decide whether I was losing my mind. Eventually curiosity won. Curiosity always wins. By midnight I was sitting in my apartment with my laptop open. The flash drive plugged in. My heart beating far faster than was medically necessary. There were dozens of files. Spreadsheets. Scanned documents. Audio recordings. Photographs. Financial records. Enough information to make my laptop wheeze in protest. At first none of it made sense. Companies I'd never heard of. Bank transfers. Property purchases. Offshore accounts. Pages and pages of numbers. Then I found a folder. One folder. Named KJW. The initials of Kang Jae-wook. Do-Yun's uncle. I opened it. And suddenly understood why someone might disappear. The folder contained evidence. Not rumors. Not suspicions. Evidence. Signed contracts. Wire transfers. Recorded conversations. Photographs. Enough to destroy careers. Enough to send people to prison. Enough to bring down an empire. I stared at the screen frozen. Because there was only one question left. How had Do-Yun gotten all this? Then I opened the most recent file. The date caught my attention immediately. 14 days before the wedding. Exactly 14, the day everything started. It was a voice recording. Do-Yun's voice filled the room. Calm, focused, and a little tired. The way he always sounded when he'd been working too much. If you're hearing this, then something went wrong. My chest tightened instantly. The recording continued. I found enough evidence to expose him. I thought I could handle it quietly. I was wrong. There was a long silence. He knows I know. I stopped the recording immediately. Because suddenly the apartment felt smaller. The room felt colder. And for the first time in 3 years, I was afraid. Not sad. Not heartbroken. Afraid. I pressed play again. If anything happens to me, don't go to the police first. Go to box 417. Everything you need is there. The recording ended. Just like that. No explanation. No goodbye. No declaration of love. Nothing. Only instructions. Then I looked at the silver key sitting beside my laptop. Box 417. The key wasn't symbolic. It wasn't sentimental. It opened something real. And whatever was inside had been important enough for Do-Yun to risk everything. The next morning I called the only person I trusted. Unfortunately, that person happened to be Do-Yun's grandmother. The call connected on the second ring. For a few seconds neither of us spoke. Then she quietly said, "You found it, didn't you?" Every muscle in my body locked. Because I hadn't told her anything. Not about the envelope. Not about the key. Not about the flash drive. I gripped the phone tighter. "How do you know about it?" She was silent. The kind of silence people make when they've spent years waiting for a question. Finally, she answered. "Because I put it there." And just like that, the entire story changed again. For a moment I genuinely thought I'd misheard her. I stood up so quickly my chair nearly fell over. "What?" The old woman sighed. Not the sigh of someone caught. The sigh of someone exhausted. Like she'd been carrying a secret for far too long. "Sit down, Eun-Ji." "I don't want to sit down." "Sit." The annoying thing about elderly Korean women is that they somehow make commands sound legally binding. I sat and immediately regretted it. "Grandma, you found the key." Not a question. A statement. Then she added, "And the flash drive." The realization hit me slowly. Like a train. "You knew." Her silence was answer enough. For 3 years I'd believed nobody knew what happened to Do-Yun. For 3 years I'd watched his family mourn. For 3 years I'd believed we were all searching for the same answers. Apparently that wasn't true. "How much do you know?" The line went quiet. Then she said something unexpected. "More than I wanted." That wasn't the answer I needed. Not even close. "Grandma, my grandson didn't disappear." She said. "What?" "He left." The room spun slightly. Because those 2 words changed everything. Disappearing and leaving are not the same thing. One is a tragedy. The other is a choice. And I wasn't ready for that distinction. The old woman continued before I could interrupt. "He left because I told him to." I stared at the wall. Then at the laptop. Then at absolutely nothing. Because my brain had officially descended into confusion. "You told him to leave." "Yes." "You cried at his memorial service." "Yes." "You nearly slapped a reporter for asking questions." "Yes." I laughed. Not because anything was funny, but because I was rapidly approaching a psychological breakdown. Then she said something that made the laughter disappear immediately. "They would have killed him." The room became dangerously quiet. The kind where your instincts suddenly wake up. "What do you mean?" The old woman didn't answer immediately. When she finally spoke, her voice sounded older than I had ever heard it. "My husband built that company." I knew that. Everyone knew that. The Kang Group was one of the largest private companies in Korea. Shipping, construction, energy, real estate. Half the country seemed connected to it somehow. Then she continued. "After he died, the wrong people got ambitious." My eyes drifted toward the folder on the laptop. The one containing years of evidence. The one labeled KJW. Kang Jae-wook. The uncle. Suddenly I wasn't sure I wanted answers anymore. Unfortunately, it was too late. The answers had already started. Do-Yun found evidence. I know. He wanted to expose them. I know. He thought he could do it legally. This time she laughed. A bitter laugh. One without humor. My grandson was many things. Careful wasn't one of them. Then she said something that made my stomach drop. "The first threat arrived 19 days before your wedding." 19. I immediately did the math. 5 days before he disappeared. 5 days. Meaning everything had already started while I was still choosing flower arrangements and arguing about seating charts. I gripped the phone tighter. What kind of threat? The silence lasted so long I thought she'd disconnected. They mailed him a photograph. A cold feeling settled in my chest. What photograph? Then she answered. You. The old woman continued quietly. You leaving work. You meeting friends. You visiting your mother. My grip tightened. Because suddenly I understood. The threat hadn't been aimed at Do-Yun. It had been aimed at me. Then she said the one thing I couldn't stop hearing. They wanted him to understand they could reach you whenever they wanted. The room felt smaller. Then another realization hit. If that had happened 3 years ago, then why was someone still sending photographs now? I looked toward the folder, toward the key, toward the evidence, and suddenly a possibility appeared that I hated immediately. Because if people were still watching, then maybe this wasn't over. Maybe it had never been over at all. Then Grandma spoke again, and her next sentence nearly knocked the air out of my lungs. There's a reason Do-Yun told you not to trust the family. I closed my eyes. I already knew what she was about to say. There was someone helping your uncle. Inside our family. I sat very still. Mostly because moving felt unnecessary. Every 5 minutes this story either became worse or bigger or both. Who? I don't know, she said. I laughed immediately. A short, disbelieving laugh. Grandma. I'm serious. That got my attention. Because she sounded serious. Then she continued. We knew someone was feeding information to Jae-wook. We just never proved who. That wasn't comforting. Not even slightly. I looked at the laptop. Then at the key. Then back at the screen. Because suddenly every family member I'd trusted felt different. His father. His mother. His cousins. His aunts. Anyone could have been involved. The old woman seemed to know exactly what I was thinking. Don't start accusing people. Why not? Because that's how innocent people get hurt. Unfortunately, I was fresh out of fair. Then she added something strange. Do-Yun never believed it was his father. I frowned. You asked him? No. That answer made no sense. Then she sighed. He left me letters. That explained the envelope, the key, the waiting. For years she'd been carrying pieces of a conversation nobody else knew existed. Then she said, the last letter arrived 8 months after he disappeared. I sat upright. What? This time she sounded tired. The letters stopped after that. My heart immediately started racing. Because there was only one reason that mattered. If letters arrived after he vanished, then he was alive. Or at least he had been. Long after everyone believed he'd gone. Why didn't you tell anyone? The old woman laughed. Who exactly was I supposed to trust? That shut me up immediately. Then I remembered something. The flash drive. The recording. The key. All of it pointed toward box 417. And somehow we'd spent 20 minutes talking without discussing the most important thing. What's in the box? The grandmother didn't answer. Grandma. I don't know. I stared at the phone. You don't know? No. How can you not know? Because Do-Yun never told me. That wasn't the answer I wanted. Then she added. He told me never to open it. The room suddenly felt cold. Because Do-Yun had trusted her enough to hide evidence. Trusted her enough to protect secrets, but not enough to tell her what was inside. Which meant whatever waited in box 417 was bigger than the flash drive. Then my phone buzzed. I ignored it. The conversation was slightly more important than civilization. It buzzed again, then again. Finally I looked. It was an unknown number. 3 messages. No text, just photographs. The first showed my apartment building. The second showed my office. The third showed me. Taken earlier that day. Standing inside the apartment. Holding the envelope. My blood turned to ice. Because only one person should have known about that. Me. The photograph wasn't old. It wasn't from years ago. It was today. Hours ago. Someone had watched me find the envelope. I immediately stood up. The grandmother heard the movement. What happened? I couldn't answer. Not right away. Because there was a 4th message. One that had just arrived. No photograph this time. Just a sentence. You should have left the bookshelf closed. For the first time in 3 years. I wasn't looking for Do-Yun anymore. Someone was looking for me. I don't think I reacted. Which, in hindsight, wasn't my strongest decision. The second I read that message, I grabbed my keys. Because my brain immediately latched onto one idea. The apartment. The bookshelf. If someone knew I'd found the compartment, then maybe they'd been there. Maybe they left something. Maybe they'd come back. Fear does strange things to logic. 10 minutes later I was speeding through Seoul wondering whether I was being brave or incredibly stupid. The answer was probably both. The rain had started again by the time I reached the building. The parking garage was nearly empty. That should have made me feel better. Instead it made me nervous. Everything echoed. Every footstep. Every closing door. Every distant sound. I unlocked the apartment. Stepped inside and immediately froze. The bookshelf was gone. Not damaged. Not moved. Gone. Completely gone. For 3 years that stupid bookshelf hadn't moved an inch. Now the entire thing had vanished. I stood there staring at the empty section of wall, then slowly walked closer, because something was sitting on the floor where the bookshelf used to be. A small black box. No label. No note. My phone rang. It was his grandmother. I answered immediately. The bookshelf is gone. Leave. What? Leave right now. That got my attention, because until now she'd sounded worried. But now she sounded frightened. Grandma, get out of that apartment. Too late. I had already opened the box. Inside was a single photograph. Nothing else. Just one photograph. My stomach dropped instantly, because it wasn't old. It wasn't from 3 years ago. It was recent. The photograph showed me sitting in a cafe 3 weeks ago reading a book, completely unaware someone was watching. Beneath it was another photograph of me leaving work last month. Then another. Me grocery shopping. Then another. Me visiting my mother. Then several more. Years of photographs. Organized by date. My entire life laid out inside a box. The grandmother went silent. I realized I'd stopped breathing again. A bad habit I developed lately. Then I reached the bottom and found one final photograph. Unlike the others, this one wasn't of me. It was of Do-Yun. My heart nearly stopped. The picture had been taken recently. Not 3 years ago. Not before the wedding. Recently. Do-Yun stood outside a train station. Older. Thinner. Bearded. But unmistakably him. Alive. I dropped into the nearest chair. Because for 3 years I'd prepared myself for every possibility except this one. The date printed in the corner made it worse. 8 days ago. My hands were shaking. The grandmother was saying something. I couldn't hear her, because written on the back of the photograph were 6 words. In Do-Yun's handwriting. The exact handwriting I'd spent years trying to forget. I'm sorry. I couldn't stay hidden. The room tilted. Because suddenly the timeline changed. Everything changed. Do-Yun wasn't gone. Do-Yun wasn't dead. Do-Yun wasn't missing. Someone had found him. Then my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Another message. No explanation. Just a photograph. I opened it. It was Do-Yun. The exact same train station. The exact same clothes. The exact same day. Only this photograph had been taken from farther away. As if someone had been watching him. And beneath it was a message with 3 words. You're too late. No threat. Nothing. Just 3 words. Whoever sent this wanted confusion. The grandmother was still talking. I forced myself to focus. Eun-Ji. I'm here. What did they send? I looked at the photograph again. The train station. Do-Yun photo. Then I told her everything. For the first time since the call began, she sounded genuinely shocked. Not worried. Not frightened. Shocked. That's impossible. That got my attention. What is? The photograph. I frowned. What about it? Turn it over. She said. I looked at the picture, then flipped it. My stomach dropped. Because I'd been so focused on the handwriting that I'd missed something. A stamp. Faded. It was almost invisible at the bottom corner. A tiny mark. Property of Hanul Archive Services. I stared. What is that? The grandmother didn't answer immediately, which meant she knew exactly what it was. Finally. It's a document storage company. That wasn't helping. Why would Do-Yun's photograph come from a storage company? Because that's where box 417 is. For the first time all night. Something connected. The key. The box. The photograph. The message. The storage company. It all pointed to the same place. Box 417. Then I realized if the photograph came from the storage company, then whoever sent it had access. Meaning one of 2 things. Either they had already opened box 417, or they were trying to stop me from opening it. Neither option felt encouraging. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Another message. This time text only. Open it. That wasn't what I expected. Because so far whoever was contacting me had seemed threatening. Now they were giving instructions. The grandmother heard my breathing change. What? I read the message aloud. The line went completely silent. That's not him. My heart skipped. What? Do-Yun. The certainty in her voice caught me off guard. How do you know? Her answer came instantly. Because if Do-Yun wanted you to open the box, he would have told you why. Then another message arrived. A photograph. Not of me. Not of Do-Yun. It was an old industrial building. Gray concrete. No markings. No address. Just a building. Beneath it. 417. I zoomed in and immediately noticed something strange. The photograph wasn't current. It had been taken at night, yet reflected in one of the windows was a digital clock. Timestamp. 11:42 p.m. Tonight. My pulse quickened, because whoever took the picture had taken it recently. Then I noticed something else. A figure standing near the entrance. Small, blurry, and partially hidden by shadow. Most people would have missed it. I almost did, but once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. The person wasn't facing the building. They were facing the camera, watching whoever took the photograph. Then the final message arrived. No photograph. No explanation. No threats. Just a time. 12 a.m. I checked my phone. 11:47. 13 minutes away. Then one final sentence appeared. Come alone. And for the first time all night, I became absolutely certain of one thing. Someone had been expecting me to find that envelope. I should have said no. That's the sensible thing. The healthy thing. The thing people in documentaries always say right before the narrator explains how they survived. Instead, I grabbed my coat. Because apparently 3 years of unanswered questions had permanently damaged my ability to make good decisions. The grandmother seemed to know exactly what I was thinking. Eun-Ji, I'm just going to look. Because nobody who says, I'm just going to look is ever just looking. Then she surprised me. I'm coming. I stopped. What? You heard me. Grandma, absolutely not. I'm 81, not dead. Fair but no. Unfortunately, convincing Kang Do-Yun not to do something was like arguing with gravity. Practically useless. 20 minutes later, she was sitting beside me in a black sedan, criticizing my driving and eating hard candy. Like we were heading to brunch instead of a possible kidnapping. The building appeared exactly 13 minutes before midnight. Old warehouse district. Edge of the city. Mostly abandoned. The kind of place people use in crime documentaries. I hated it immediately. The grandmother hated it too, which was reassuring. Then she pointed. Look. A single light burned on the 3rd floor. Everything else was dark. The rain had gotten heavier. Water ran down broken windows. The entire place looked abandoned. Except for that one light. We parked across the street. Neither of us moved. Then the grandmother quietly said, We're being watched. I turned. What? She nodded toward a convenience store. Across the road, a man stood beside a vending machine. Dark jacket. Baseball cap. Not buying anything. Not moving. Just standing. The second he realized we'd noticed him, he walked away. My stomach tightened, because suddenly this felt real again. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. One message. 3rd floor. Room 312. The grandmother read it, then muttered something that would have made her priest uncomfortable. I was beginning to like her even more. The elevator didn't work. Of course it didn't. So we climbed. 3 flights. Dark hallways. Water stains. Flickering lights. Every horror movie decision available. Room 312 sat at the end of the corridor. The door was already open. That stopped me at first because somebody had been expecting us. The room itself was almost empty. 1 table. 1 chair. 1 laptop. And sitting beside the laptop was a familiar silver key. Box 417. I walked slowly toward the table. The screen was already on. Waiting. A video file sat in the center. Untitled and recently uploaded. Timestamp. 11:55 p.m. 5 minutes ago. The grandmother stepped closer. Neither of us spoke. Because deep down we both knew. There was only one person who could have uploaded a file 5 minutes ago and known we'd be here. My hand moved toward the trackpad. Then stopped. Because suddenly I noticed something. The laptop camera light was on. A tiny green dot. Watching us. Someone wasn't just leaving messages anymore. Someone was actively observing. And right now, the grandmother noticed too. Then she did something unexpected. She looked directly into the camera and calmly said, You've been hiding long enough. Then the laptop speakers crackled. A man's voice filled the room. Tired. Older. But instantly recognizable. My knees nearly gave out. Because after 3 years, I recognized Kang Do-Yun's voice immediately. And the first thing he said was, Eun-Ji, if you're hearing this, then they finally found me. The recording continued. Eun-Ji, before anything else. A faint tired smile appeared on the screen. So I was right. I stared. What? The grandmother whispered beside me. What does he mean? The video answered. If you're watching this, you ignored every sensible decision available to you. That sounded exactly like him. Then he added, you probably came here immediately. The grandmother looked at me and I looked at her. Neither of us spoke. Because unfortunately, he was correct. Do-Yun sighed. Then his expression became serious. The first thing you need to know is this. I was never trying to expose my uncle. That hit me immediately. Because every piece of evidence, every recording, every file, had pointed toward Jae-wook. The uncle. The villain. The obvious answer. And suddenly Do-Yun was telling me we'd all been wrong. What? The word escaped before I could stop it. On screen, Do-Yun rubbed his face, looking exhausted. The reason I disappeared wasn't my uncle. The room seemed smaller, because every answer was creating 3 new questions. Then he said, my uncle was just the distraction. The grandmother inhaled sharply, the way people do when a terrible suspicion suddenly becomes real. Then Do-Yun looked directly into the camera, straight at us, straight at me, and quietly said, the person behind everything was someone much closer. I closed my eyes briefly, because there it was. The thing I'd been dreading. The traitor. The family member. The person who'd been feeding information to Jae-wook. The person who'd known everything. Then Do-Yun spoke again. This is where I need you to stay calm. Never a good sentence. Not once in human history has anything good followed. Stay calm. Then the video froze. Not buffered. Not paused. Frozen. The screen went black. I stared. The grandmother stared. Nobody moved. Then the laptop rebooted itself automatically. A loading screen appeared. Then a password prompt. I laughed. Because apparently even after disappearing for 3 years, Kang Do-Yun was still creating problems. You're kidding. The password box remained. Waiting. Then a text appeared underneath. A hint. My stomach immediately tightened. Because the hint wasn't random. It was personal. The answer is where it began. The grandmother frowned. What does that mean? Unfortunately, I already knew. Or at least I thought I did. The hospital. Wrong. The apartment. Wrong. The university. Wrong. Then a memory surfaced. A small one. The kind most people would have forgotten. 3 years ago. Before the engagement. Before the apartment. Before any of this. Do-Yun and I had met during a train delay. 6 hours stranded inside Seoul Station during a storm. Neither of us had wanted to be there. Neither of us had wanted company. Yet somehow we'd spent 6 hours talking. At one point he'd asked me a strange question. If you could choose one day to relive forever, what would it be? I'd laughed. Then answered. The day my father taught me to ride a bicycle. I hadn't thought about that conversation in years. Then another memory followed. Do-Yun's answer. The day I met you. Because suddenly I realized something. The password wasn't about him. It was about us. Then my phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. One new message. No photograph. No threats. No instructions. Just one sentence. Don't enter the password. I stared at the screen. Then at the laptop. Then back at the message. Because whoever had been sending warnings all night had just become desperate. And for the first time, I started wondering if they were trying to protect me. I looked at the message. Then at the laptop. The timing bothered me. Because whoever had been sending photographs about the envelope, about the warehouse, and about tonight, had waited until the exact moment I was about to enter the password. Not before. Not after. Right then. The grandmother seemed to be thinking the same thing. That's interesting. What is? They didn't say leave. I frowned. What? The old woman pointed at my phone. They didn't say run. Then she added. They only said don't enter the password. Suddenly it sounded less like a threat and more like a warning. Then another message arrived. I opened it immediately. This time there was no mystery. No games. Just 4 words. He's expecting that choice. I looked at the laptop. The password box. The blinking cursor. Waiting. Then the grandmother slowly walked around the table, studying the room. The walls. The floor. The ceiling. Like a woman who had reached the age where paranoia became experience. Then she stopped. Because she'd found something. What is it? She pointed upward. I followed her gaze. A security camera. Hidden in the corner. Facing the laptop. Facing the chair. Facing us. The realization hit instantly. Someone wanted us to use that computer. Someone wanted to watch us use that computer. Then another message appeared. Check underneath the table. I immediately crouched. The grandmother didn't even question it anymore. By this point, we'd accepted anonymous instructions as a lifestyle. Taped underneath the table was a second flash drive. My pulse quickened. I held it up. The grandmother stared, then looked at my phone, then at the flash drive, then quietly said, "One person is leading you toward the laptop." I nodded. "Another person is leading you away from it." Exactly. For the first time all night, there were two players, not one. Then my phone buzzed again. A third message. "If you trust Do-Yun, use the flash drive." I looked at the grandmother. The grandmother looked at me. Then she surprised me. Again. "Use it." "What?" Do-Yun knew someone would find that laptop. She pointed at the hidden flash drive. He didn't know someone would find this. That was a very good point. Possibly the best point anyone had made all night. The laptop had been prepared. The flash drive felt improvised. Like a backup plan. I plugged it into the side of the computer. For 2 seconds, nothing happened. Then a new folder appeared. Hidden archive. Password protected. Of course it was. Because apparently every person in this story was allergic to straightforward communication. But before I could complain, the folder opened automatically. No password. No security. Just a video recorded yesterday. My heart was racing. I clicked. The screen flickered. Then Kang Do-Yun appeared. Older and thinner than before. A faint scar near his temple. But alive. The grandmother gasped. Then covered her mouth. Because this wasn't an old recording. This wasn't a message from the past. Do-Yun looked directly into the camera. And said, "If you're seeing this, then they got to the warehouse before I could." The room froze. Then he added, "And if they got to the warehouse." His eyes lowered briefly. Like he was choosing his next words carefully. "Then one of them is standing closer than you think." I felt every muscle in my body tighten. Because suddenly the traitor wasn't the biggest problem. The bigger problem was this. Do-Yun wasn't talking about 3 years ago anymore. He was talking about now. Then he said something that made my stomach drop. Eun-Ji. A few seconds passed. "Do not go home." The grandmother and I looked at each other immediately. Then Do-Yun continued. "Because the person helping Jae-wook finally knows you found box 417. Then he leaned toward the camera and quietly said, "They're already inside your apartment." The grandmother and I looked at each other without speaking, because there are very few appropriate responses too. "They're already inside your apartment." Then the video continued. Do-Yun leaned forward, looking directly into the camera, directly at me. "If you're watching this, then you've already found the evidence. So I'm going to save time." Finally, someone in this story understood pacing. Then he said, "The person helping Jae-wook isn't my father." Good. The person helping Jae-wook isn't my mother. It's not anyone in my immediate family. His grandmother visibly relaxed. Then Do-Yun delivered the answer. It was Min-suk. I frowned immediately. Not because I knew him so well, but everyone else did. Han Min-suk. Do-Yun's closest friend. His best man. The man who helped plan our wedding. The man who'd sat beside me at the funeral service. The man who'd spent 3 years helping search for answers. The man who'd comforted me. Because betrayal always hurts more when it arrives wearing a familiar face. The video continued. Jae-wook paid him to monitor me. Then threatened him to keep helping. That didn't make it better, not even slightly. Then another file automatically opened. A financial ledger. Hundreds of payments. Years of payments. Every transaction connected to the same name. Han Min-suk. The grandmother covered her mouth. Because now there was proof, not just suspicion. Then Do-Yun continued. The reason I disappeared wasn't because they were trying to destroy me. His eyes lowered briefly. They were trying to find something. That got my attention. Because we'd spent 3 years assuming the evidence was the goal. Apparently it wasn't. Then Do-Yun held up a document. A single page. The evidence against my uncle was only part of it. My pulse quickened. Because there it was. The answer. The thing hidden inside box 417. The real reason I left was because I found out who murdered my grandfather. I froze. His grandmother looked like someone had stopped her heart. What? The word escaped before she could stop it. Do-Yun continued. My grandfather didn't die of natural causes. The silence became suffocating. Because suddenly this wasn't corporate corruption. This wasn't fraud. This wasn't money. This was murder. And the man we'd all believed died peacefully in his sleep had been killed. Then Do-Yun said something even worse. The person responsible wasn't my uncle, because there were only so many family members left. Then the video cut. Not dramatically. A simple transition. Another recording. Different day. Different location. Do-Yun sitting inside a small apartment. Looking exhausted. Looking hunted. Looking alive. And finally speaking without preparation. Without scripts. Without evidence. Just honesty. Eun-Ji. His voice softened. Immediately. I wanted to come back. I tried. A faint laugh escaped him. I actually bought a plane ticket twice. My chest tightened. Then he smiled sadly. The first time they followed me to the airport. The second time someone sent me a photograph of you. The smile vanished. They wanted me to understand they were still watching. The grandmother lowered her head. Everything was starting to make sense. The silence. The disappearance. The years. He hadn't left because he stopped loving her. He'd stayed away because he did. Then he added, "If you're watching this video." His eyes held the camera. Then that means Min-suk finally made his move. A loud sound echoed from somewhere below the warehouse. A door. Then another. The grandmother looked up immediately. I did too. Because we weren't alone anymore. Footsteps. Several of them. Coming up the stairs. Fast. Then the laptop screen changed. A live camera feed appeared. The warehouse entrance. 3 men entering the building. And standing behind them was Han Min-suk, Do-Yun's best friend. My friend. Our best man. Holding a folder in one hand. And looking directly at the camera. Like he knew exactly where we were. The game was over. The answers had arrived. And apparently, so had the people try and stop us from hearing the rest of them. My first instinct was to run. Grandma apparently had different hobbies. Because while I was staring at the live camera feed wondering whether this qualified as a hostage situation, she calmly picked up one of the warehouse chairs. What are you doing? If they're coming upstairs, somebody's getting hit. Fair enough. The footsteps grew louder. Min-suk wasn't wandering around looking for us. He knew exactly where we were. Then the laptop speakers crackled again. Do-Yun's voice. Urgent this time. If Min-suk is there, then listen carefully. The footsteps kept coming. He's not working for Jae-wook anymore. That stopped me. What? The screen flickered. Do-Yun continued. They turned on each other 6 months ago. The grandmother frowned. What does that mean? Then Do-Yun answered. Jae-wook discovered Min-suk kept copies. Copies. Of the evidence. Of everything. Suddenly I understood. This wasn't a cover-up anymore. This was a war. And both sides wanted the same thing. The files. Then another sentence appeared on the screen. A location. A bank. A vault number. And finally the explanation. Box 417 was never the evidence. My pulse quickened. Because suddenly every clue snapped together. The envelope. The flash drive. The warehouse. The messages. The threats. All of it had been designed to protect one thing. Not evidence. A witness. Then Do-Yun finally said the words we'd waited nearly the entire story to hear. The person inside the vault is the reason I disappeared. The room froze. Even the grandmother. Because there was only one thing more valuable than evidence. Someone who could testify. Then the warehouse door burst open. The sound echoed through the building. The footsteps stopped. Then started again. Much closer now. Room 312. They were coming directly here. The laptop screen suddenly switched to another video. This one only seconds long. Do-Yun looking exhausted. Standing outside what appeared to be a small countryside house. Then he spoke. The witness is Sophia Kang. The grandmother cursed under her breath, what the fuck? Because everyone knew that name. Sophia Kang. Do-Yun's cousin. The granddaughter nobody talked about anymore. The one who supposedly died in a car accident 4 years ago. Except apparently, she wasn't dead. Then everything hit me at once. The murder. The fake accident. The disappearing witness. The uncle. Min-suk. The threats. 3 years of lies. Then Do-Yun delivered the final bombshell. Sophia saw who killed my grandfather. Then the warehouse door at the end of the hallway slammed open. Room after room being checked. They were getting close. Closer. Then Grandma quietly stood. Chair still in hand. Honestly, she was becoming my favorite person. Then the laptop beeped. One final message from Do-Yun appeared. The police already have everything. I blinked hard. Then the next line appeared. I sent it 18 minutes ago. The room went silent. Because suddenly the balance shifted. For the first time all night, the bad guys were already too late. Then another line appeared. And this one made me stop breathing. By the time you're reading this, I'm already on my way back to Seoul. No footsteps. No warehouse. No Min-suk. No conspiracy as far as I was concerned existed except that sentence. 3 years of grief. 3 years of wondering. And now, he was coming home. Then room 312's door swung open. Min-suk stepped inside, breathing hard. 3 men behind him. He looked at me, then at Grandma, then at the laptop. And the expression on his face told me everything. He was too late. He knew it. Then his phone rang. He answered automatically. And whatever the person on the other end said, drained every drop of color from his face. The call lasted less than 10 seconds. When it ended, Min-suk just stood there. Then he laughed. A broken laugh. The kind people make when they realize the game is over. Then he looked at me and quietly said, "He's really coming back, isn't he?" And for the first time in 3 years, I smiled. Yes. Min-suk sat down before anyone asked him to. That was the first thing that surprised me. Not the confession or the arrest. Not even the fact that 3 years of secrets were finally collapsing around him. The man just looked exhausted. Like he'd been carrying a burden almost as long as the rest of us. Grandma remained standing, chair still in hand. Just in case. Personally, I respected the commitment. Then Min-suk looked at the laptop and quietly said, "I never wanted him hurt." Nobody replied. Because that's usually how these conversations begin. Then he laughed bitterly. I know how that sounds. Good. At least one of us did. The police arrived less than 10 minutes later. Not dramatic. No car chases. No action movie nonsense. Just professionals walking into a warehouse carrying years of evidence. By then Min-suk had already given them everything. Names. Accounts. Companies. Transactions. The entire network. And for the first time, I finally understood why Do-Yun had stayed hidden. Because this wasn't one corrupt executive. This wasn't one greedy uncle. It was an entire system. A system built by people with too much money and too little conscience. The arrest started before sunrise. Jae-wook was taken into custody that morning. 3 board members by noon. 2 executives before dinner. By the end of the week, every major news channel in Korea was talking about the Kang Group investigation. And for once, nobody was talking about my cancelled wedding. 3 days later, Sophia appeared publicly alive, healthy and very annoyed. Which honestly felt appropriate. The entire country had spent 4 years believing she was dead. Sophia's response to the media was, "I was busy." I immediately liked her. The woman testified. The evidence held. The case exploded. And suddenly the thing that had haunted all of us for years was finally over. At least legally. Emotionally was a different story. Because there was still one person missing. Do-Yun. The police knew where he'd been. The lawyers knew where he'd been. The government probably knew where he'd been. I didn't. Which felt unfair. Then 6 days later, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I answered before the second ring. Neither of us spoke. For a few seconds, all I could hear was breathing. Then, "Hi." 3 years, and somehow that was all he had. "Hi." I laughed immediately. A wet laugh. Half crying. Half furious. "Hi." Fairly sure the man shrank on the other end. I had a speech prepared. That was the speech? No. Okay then. After a few seconds, he laughed. And suddenly it sounded painfully familiar again. Then he said, "I'm outside." I froze. What? I'm outside. I stood so fast when across the apartment, opened the door, and forgot every intelligent thing I'd planned to say. Because there he was, Kang Do-Yun, standing in the hallway, looking older, thinner, a faint scar near his temple, and somehow exactly the same. For a few seconds neither of us moved. 3 years is a strange amount of time. Too long to be strangers. Too long to be familiar. Just long enough to break your heart twice. Then he smiled. The same smile that appears whenever he knew I was about to lose an argument. And just like that, I started crying. Not gracefully, attractively. The ugly version with full commitment. The man had the decency to look guilty. Then he opened his arms. And that was it. I crossed the distance so fast I nearly tackled him to the ground. His arms wrapped around me immediately. Tight, like he was afraid I'd disappear. Which was rich coming from him. After a few seconds, I punched his shoulder. Hard. He deserved it. Then I hugged him again. Also deserved. Eventually I looked up. You owe me an explanation. I know. You owe me several explanations. I know. 3 years, Do-Yun. His smile faded. I know. The guilt in his eyes finally stopped me. Because for the first time, I could see the cost. The years hadn't only happened to me. They'd happened to him too. Then he reached into his coat pocket. My eyes narrowed immediately. Because absolutely nothing good had ever started with him reaching into a pocket. The man produced a small velvet box. I stared. Then stared harder. Do-Yun. I had this ready 3 years ago. Then he opened the box. Inside was the original ring. The one he'd never gotten to use. The one that should have been part of a wedding that never happened. His voice was quiet when he spoke. No rehearsed speech. No grand gestures. Just honesty. The first proposal got interrupted. A small smile appeared. Then. So I figured I'd try again. And for the first time in years, the future finally felt bigger than the past. For a few seconds I just stared at the ring. Not because I was surprised. Honestly, at this point the man could have pulled a small submarine out of his pocket and I would have accepted it. It had been that kind of month. Still, seeing the ring hurt a little. Not in a bad way. In the way old scars ache when it rains. Because this wasn't a new ring. This wasn't a replacement. This wasn't some symbolic fresh start. This was the ring. The one that had survived everything. I looked at him. You carried this around the entire time? His expression immediately became guilty. Which answered the question. Oh my God. It sounds worse when you say it out loud. Then he took a slow breath. The nervous kind. The kind I'd only seen a handful of times. Board meetings didn't make him nervous. Investors didn't make him nervous. Apparently proposing to the same woman twice did. Then he said, Eun-Ji. And suddenly he wasn't smiling anymore. I hated every day. The words landed harder than I expected. Because there was no performance in them. No attempt to impress me. Just honesty. I hated not calling. I hated not seeing you. His eyes never left mine. I hated every birthday. Every holiday. Every anniversary. A faint laugh escaped him. I even hated Tuesdays. I frowned. Why Tuesdays? You like Tuesdays. I laughed at his response despite myself. Because he remembered. He always did. Then he looked down briefly. Before continuing, I kept telling myself it would only be a few months. My smile disappeared. Because suddenly I could see it. The optimism. The denial. The slow realization that months had become years. Then he quietly added. After the first year. He paused. I stopped believing you'd wait. That one hurt. Because the truth was, I hadn't waited. Not really. I hadn't dated anyone seriously. But I hadn't waited either. I tried to move on. Emphasis on tried. Then he surprised me. He was talented at it. I would have hated it if you had. What? If you'd moved on. A few seconds passed. Completely understandable. Still would have hated it. I laughed. The honesty was almost refreshing. Then I looked at the ring again. You know this is a terrible proposal. His eyebrows lifted. Excuse me? Objectively. I pointed at the hallway. The setting is weak. He looked around. The hallway wasn't exactly romantic. Then I continued. You disappeared for 3 years. You let me think you abandoned me. He winced. Then I folded my arms. And delivered my final verdict. This proposal lacks structure. The man stared. Then laughed. The kind I'd missed. The kind his grandmother had missed. The kind his father apparently monitored like stock prices. Then he shook his head. Are you saying no? I smiled. Because honestly, the poor man had suffered enough. Then I stepped closer, took the ring from the box, and placed it in his hand. His expression fell immediately into confusion and panic. Then I said, try again. What? Properly. The silence lasted exactly 2 seconds. Then, oh. The smile that appeared could have powered half of Seoul. And for the first time since he'd come home, Kang Do-Yun looked completely happy. 3 months later, grandmother got the wedding she wanted. Unfortunately for everyone involved, she also got a planning committee. A planning committee she chaired personally, which should have been illegal. His mother handled flowers. His father handled logistics. Sophia handled security. Apparently once you've spent 4 years in hiding, you become very serious about security. And Do-Yun? Do-Yun handled absolutely nothing. By family order. Nobody trusted him, especially around timelines. The wedding itself was surprisingly simple. No media, no spectacle, no shareholders, no billionaires trying to network during dinner. Just family, friends, and people who'd earned the right to be there. When I finally walked down the aisle, I found him waiting at the end, smiling. Not the careful smile, not the public smile, just his smile. The real one, the one I'd almost lost forever. Then something caught my attention. Front row, his grandmother, crying, openly, dramatically, without shame. I smiled. She pointed at me immediately, as if warning me not to mention it later. Naturally, I planned to mention it forever. Then I reached Do-Yun. He took my hands. The ceremony began. And while we made our vows, nothing felt unfinished. No mysteries, no secrets, no missing pieces. Just us. Exactly where we should have been 3 years earlier. Only wiser, slightly older, and significantly more suspicious of bookshelves. Hit subscribe for more relationship stories drama. Comment below, how did you feel about Do-Hyun's choices in the story?